I'm Patsy Malveaux, 51 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that love, real love, was something you built brick by brick. You worked for it, protected it, fed it, and hoped it would grow stronger with time. I thought that's what I had. I thought that's what my family was. But life has a cruel way of showing you that sometimes the thing you built is only standing because you were the only one holding it up. I met Jared when I was 24. He used to joke that he practically grew up in my parents' house. He came from a broken home, chaotic, unpredictable, the kind where dinner might be a warm meal or an argument thrown across the room. My mom used to hand him plates like he belonged at our table. Eventually, he did. We married young, with nothing but hope and hard work. I became a truck driver because it paid better than anything else I could have started with at that age. He worked at small local jobs, doing whatever came his way. Together, we weren't rich, not even close, but we weren't drowning either. We were building something, one slow paycheck at a time. When I got pregnant with Savannah, my savvy, everything changed. Jared wanted me to quit, said the hours were too long and the roads too dangerous. I agreed, even though I loved the freedom of driving, the quiet of empty highways. But motherhood sounded like a different kind of freedom. Money got tight, but we survived. I learned to stretch a dollar until it begged for mercy. Jared worked more hours, and I handled everything at home. It was exhausting, but I held on, telling myself families work through hard seasons. When Savvy turned 3, we were finally better. I went back to driving, just part-time, and Jared took a job again. But something in him had changed. He came home later, started talking about wanting more out of life, about how we were small people living small lives. At first, I thought he was just tired, burnt out, stressed. But then he got a new job at a chic cafe in the wealthy part of town, the kind of place with marble counters, glass pastries, people who wore real leather instead of the imitation kind Jared and I used to save months for. Surrounded by luxury, he didn't just get a taste for it, he became hungry for it. I didn't notice the shift, not at first. I was too busy trying to reconnect with Savvy. She adored having me home more. I helped her with homework, cooked dinner with her perched at the counter, swinging her legs, braided her hair before bed. For a while, those were the happiest evenings of my life. But while I was bonding with my daughter, my husband was bonding with someone else. The night everything shattered, Jared came home drunk. He stumbled through the door, smelling like expensive cologne and guilt. When I confronted him, begged him to tell me what was wrong, he didn't deny anything. He didn't even cry. He just said it flatly, like he was reciting a grocery list. "I want a divorce, Patsy. I've been seeing someone else." I stood there in my old t-shirt, my daughter asleep down the hall, and felt the floor tilt under me. I asked him who. I don't know why. It's the kind of question that only hurts you more. He told me the name, Stephen, 60 years old, wealthy, generous, everything Jared wanted to be, but never was. And just like that, he walked away, from me, from Savvy, from the 18 years of shared life he swore meant something. He didn't fight for custody. He didn't ask for visitation. In fact, he made it painfully clear. Stephen isn't good with kids. Savvy doesn't fit the lifestyle. The lifestyle. I remember laughing, this awful, hollow sound. My daughter wasn't a decoration. She wasn't a luxury item. But to Jared, she was expendable, replaceable. And that was the moment I realized he was gone long before he ever left. Raising Savvy alone was hard, emotionally, physically, financially. But I did it. I showed up at every doctor visit, every school play, every parent meeting. I worked long hours, driving trucks and hauling loads across the state while still trying to make it to every bedtime story. And honestly, I loved being her mother. I loved us. But she loved the life Jared could offer. Because Stephen had money. And when Jared re-entered her life years later, armed with gifts he didn't pay for, vacations he didn't earn, luxury he never worked for, Savvy didn't know how to resist it. What child would? At first, I ignored the signs. I convinced myself she was just excited, not drifting. But I saw it. The shift in her eyes, the subtle embarrassment when I showed up to her workplace in my worn jeans and trucker jacket. The comparison she never said aloud, but lived like a new truth. Her father had become sophisticated, and I was still the same Patsy from the old neighborhood. But the part that broke me wasn't her growing up. It was how she grew away. By 18, she became a hairdresser and started avoiding coming home. When I asked if I'd done something wrong, she smiled that practiced smile and said she was busy. I believed her. I always believed her. I didn't want to weigh her down. I thought giving her space was what a good mother did. But space became absence, and absence became silence. And somewhere in all of this, she made the decision that would define us both. She chose the lifestyle over the life I gave her. She chose people who had left her over the mother who stayed. She chose appearances over love. I didn't know then what was coming, how that choice would explode into something so painful I still feel it at the edges of everything I do. I didn't know Savannah would one day be ashamed of me or that she'd erase me from the most important moment of her life. I didn't know the wedding would become the graveyard of whatever relationship we had left. But looking back now, the signs were everywhere. I just didn't want to see them. I should have known something was coming when Savannah asked to meet me at a fancy little cafe she loved, one of those places with gold-rimmed menus and overly polite waiters who look at people like me and wonder how we got through the door. She sat across from me in a peach dress, glowing in that way 24-year-olds do when life feels wide open. I was happy just to see her. I didn't care where we were. She reached across the table, touching my hand lightly. "Mom, I want to talk about the wedding." My heart squeezed. I had been imagining that moment for years, walking her down the aisle, holding her trembling hand the same way I did when she took her first steps. I'd pictured her leaning on me, laughing through nerves. I'd pictured, well, a mother's place. So when she inhaled deeply, I held my breath too. "Mom, I don't want you to walk me down the aisle." The words didn't register at first. They floated in the air like fog, drifting, waiting for me to catch up. I laughed, quiet, confused, hopeful. "Oh, honey, if you want something different, we can talk about it." "It's not that," she said, her eyes shifting away. I don't believe in that patriarchal tradition. It doesn't feel modern." I nodded slowly. My heart cracked, but didn't break. Not yet. I'd been shoved aside many times, but always for reasons I convinced myself were innocent. Growing pains, identity shifts, independence. If my daughter wanted a modern ceremony, I could accept that. "I respect your decision," I told her. "However you want me there, I'll be there." And I meant it. 2 days later, the truth hit me like a punch to the ribs. Marcus, her fiancé, accidentally revealed it when he came by my house to drop off some table decorations Savannah wanted me to store. He chatted casually, nervous like he always was around me, until he said, "Savannah's really grateful Stephen said yes to walking her." I stopped breathing. "Stephen? Who?" His eyes widened. "Oh, she didn't tell you?" "No, she didn't. She didn't tell me that the man her father left me for, the wealthy affair partner who didn't want her in his life for years, was going to walk her down the aisle. Because he was more sophisticated." My ears rang, my chest tightened, the world blurred. Marcus realized what he'd done and stuttered through apologies, but I didn't hear half of them. My blood roared like a storm. When Savannah finally admitted it, after denying it 3 times, she said the words I will never forget. "Mom, I love you, but you wouldn't look right walking next to me in front of Marcus's family. They're very proper. Proper, sophisticated, good enough." Everything I had ever been insecure about, the worn hands, the truck routes, the late nights, the loneliness, all of it suddenly became true in her eyes. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't even beg. I simply said, "I won't be attending the wedding." She panicked, accused me of overreacting, begged, pleaded. But my heart had snapped clean down the middle, and some things, once broken, can't be pieced back together without showing the cracks. That night, I blocked her. I didn't trust myself not to crumble if she kept calling. For the first time in my life, I chose myself over the daughter I'd centered my world around. The wedding morning arrived with a sunrise that felt too gentle for how violent the day would become. At 7:14 a.m., my phone rang from a number I didn't know. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something, a mother's instinct maybe, made me answer. "Mom! Mom!" Savannah was hysterical, sobbing so hard I could barely make out her words. "Please, please, you have to come. Dad messed everything up. Stephen too. Oh my God, they ruined everything." She choked on her own breath as she tried to explain. Jared had shown up drunk. Stephen too. Beyond drunk. Slurring words, stumbling, loud enough to silence a room meant for a ceremony. Jared started flirting with Marcus's father. Stephen dragged him away. Jared screamed that Stephen had no right because he'd been cheating with younger men for years. Stephen shouted back that Jared was ungrateful and worthless. They fought, physically, knocking over chairs and decorations. Marcus's parents, horrified beyond belief, nearly left the venue. But that wasn't even the worst part. Savannah whispered, voice trembling like a frightened child. "Mom, Marcus's parents say they might not attend the wedding. They're disgusted. They said this family is embarrassing." This family, not her father, not Stephen, her family. And in that moment, she remembered I existed, not out of love, but out of desperation. She begged me to fix it, to show up, to be the respectable face she once thought wasn't enough. And for the first time, I didn't rush to my daughter's rescue. "I'm sorry you're going through this," I said quietly, "but I won't come." "You have to," she screamed. "If you don't, you're not my real mother." Her words cracked something in me, but not the way she thought. My voice was steady when I replied, "You stopped treating me like your mother a long time ago, Savannah." And I hung up. Afterward, I sat on the edge of my bed, shaking so hard my hands trembled against my knees. I cried, ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that only mothers know, the kind that scrape something raw inside you. Because I wanted to go. I wanted to hold her, save her, fix the unfixable. But I couldn't be the emergency exit she only used when her proper family collapsed. Not again, not anymore. I chose myself that day. It felt like ripping the last piece of my heart out with my bare hands. After the wedding disaster, I expected silence, a clean break, a pause in the storm that had wrecked everything between Savannah and me. But instead she emailed, not to apologize, not to take responsibility, not to say she understood why I couldn't save her. She wrote to blame me. According to her, if I had shown up, I could have balanced out the chaos, made Marcus's parents feel secure, and redeemed the family's image. As if I were some kind of emotional janitor meant to mop up whatever damage Jared and Stephen created. She minimized their drunken brawl, how Stephen shoved Jared into a row of chairs, how Jared grabbed Stephen's shirt and spat accusations in front of the entire venue. Instead, she zeroed in on my absence. Her words were sharp enough to reopen wounds that had barely begun to scab over. "If you had loved me enough, you would have come. A real mother would have saved my wedding. You chose your pride over me." It should have shattered me, but something strange happened instead. I felt tired. A deep, bone-level exhaustion from years spent proving my love to someone who never saw it unless it came gift-wrapped. For once, I didn't reply, not out of spite, not out of anger, but because I finally understood something I should have known long ago. I couldn't save her from the consequences of the choices she made. Let her blame me, I thought. Let her rewrite the story however she needs to. I was done auditioning for the role of acceptable mother. I gave myself space I had never allowed myself before. And in that silence, I started breathing again. The aftermath of her wedding. It didn't take long for the fallout to spread. A week later, another email from Savannah arrived. This one was different. Not apologetic. No, she wasn't there yet, but defeated. She told me Marcus had left. Not right away, not dramatically, but after days of arguing with his parents, who insisted the marriage was a poor reflection on the Keller family, he finally caved. Savannah said it was a mutual decision. I didn't believe that for a second. Even through her anger, I could hear it. The crack in her voice, the fissure growing under the weight of everything she tried to hide behind wealth and appearances. She ended her message by saying, "You could have prevented this, Mom." But by then, those knives no longer cut as deep, because they were the same knives I'd been stabbed with for years, and I had finally started pulling them out. The collapse of Jared and Stephen. News spreads in small communities faster than wildfire. People whispered that after the wedding blow-up, Stephen finally kicked Jared out. Apparently, the fight had exposed years of infidelity on both sides. They were good at pretending, those two. Good at faking sophistication. Good at tearing each other apart behind closed doors. I heard Jared return to living alone. No money, no comfort, no daughter. A fitting ending to the man who once said Savannah didn't fit his lifestyle. The life I created for myself. I never imagined starting over at 51. But loneliness has a way of sharpening your instincts. It pushes you, pulls you, forces you to find pieces of yourself you didn't know how to look for. One day, while getting gas after a long route, I saw a flyer for a women's motorcycle group. Casual meetups, scenic rides, no pressure. I had always loved the road, so I showed up. And they welcomed me instantly. For once, I wasn't Savannah's mother, or Jared's ex-wife, or the truck driver. I was simply Patsy, a woman who knew highways better than heartbreak but was learning to navigate both. They teased me about dating. said I had mysterious eyes, a cool trucker vibe, the kind of smile younger guys would write songs about. I thought they were ridiculous. But then one of them, Keisha, grabbed my phone, downloaded a dating app, and created a profile for me. "You deserve to be adored," she said. "Let someone try." I didn't believe her, not at first. Then I matched with Caleb Stone. Meeting Caleb, the unexpected turn. Caleb was 53, divorced, gentle-eyed, soft-spoken, a carpenter who built furniture that looked like art. He told me his ex-wife left because he was too quiet, too patient, too normal. I laughed until my ribs hurt. We went out for drinks, then dinner, then a long, unhurried walk where he held doors for me like he'd waited his whole life for the chance. He listened. He didn't judge. He didn't compare me to anyone. When I talked about my heartache, he didn't offer solutions. He simply offered presence. I had forgotten what that felt like. On our second date, he told me gently, "You don't have to be strong all the time, Patsy." I cried so hard I embarrassed myself. He held my hand anyway. Years later, full circle, I married Caleb 2 months ago. A small ceremony, soft music, close friends, no drama, no cold stares, no anxiety twisting my stomach into knots. I didn't invite Jared. I didn't invite Stephen. I didn't invite Savannah. Not because I hated them, not because I wanted revenge, but because this time my life was not built around them. Caleb and I danced barefoot on the grass afterward. I remember thinking, not with triumph, but with peace. This is what love should feel like. 1 week after the wedding, Savannah emailed again. She's remarried, apparently. Quietly, privately. To a man who isn't wealthy. A man whose parents didn't require a polished family portrait. She didn't congratulate me. She didn't ask about Caleb. She simply said, "I hope you're happy, Mom." For the first time in years, I believe she meant it. Final reflection. The release. I don't know if she and I will ever rebuild anything. I don't know if she'll ever truly understand what happened between us. But I've learned something powerful. Some chapters don't end in reconciliation. Some end in release. I raised Savannah with everything I had. I lost her anyway. But I found myself in the process. And in the quiet after all the heartbreak, I finally discovered something I never thought I would feel again. Peace.